Hello everyone, I'm Mark Zane and welcome to Zane Investment Solutions. Please take a moment to pause this video and review the following disclaimer. Thank you for that. Welcome to week 12 of the Forex market review. Let's jump to the charts and see what's happening. So last week we had a very successful week with quite a few number of trades setting up and delivering. Over the last few trading days, we haven't had much action, but overnight here in Australia, we have seen the euro move a little bit. So the first two pairs we're going to look at is the euro yen and the euro New Zealand. So what we can see is the push up here on a daily chart, the bit of pullback with another push back higher. And we're looking at, because it's touched this daily DSR zone, a retest of probably at least this 200 daily 200 EMA line and this DSR zone, which sort of matches up with it. We then drop down to the 4-hour chart, and what we want to see is the price move higher, and we'll look for an opportunity to come back. Now, based on my long-term trading, I want to see a higher high in price with a lower AO. Now, I never saw that, so this one is a quick in and out trade based on hitting the DSR zone and looking for a potential move lower. We saw it come down, almost test this 4-hour 200 EMA line, then push back higher. On the 1-hour chart, we want to be looking for the wave 3. So here we would have seen this first large AO here, which is wave 3. So if we just scroll back, we would have seen something like that. We would have then see it push back higher. We want it to come to minimum 38.2, generally around the 50%, but we definitely can't close above the 78. As we can see, it never closed above the 78. It came to this just above the 61.8. It then gave us our confirmation when it closed back below the 1-hour 200 EMA line. You would then have your entries here. You would put your stops just above those recent highs. So you're probably looking at around about 65 to 70 pips. And we've seen it push back lower to 75 pips. So definitely you've got your 1-to-1. So this is the first point you want to take half of your position off, and you would have moved your stop loss to break even. So if you stop loss up here, it's now come down to here to break even, and you would have removed half a position going to the next target area. Where do we think it's going to go? Use your Fibonacci expansion tool from the highs to the lows and then back up to the highs again of that move, and we can see roughly around at 61.8, and the lows is where we wanted to get our first lot, and we want to get our second lot somewhere down here. So you're probably going to get your 1 for 2, and at the moment it definitely looks like it's got momentum down to that way, but at least you would be at break even in this trade. The other trade is the Euro New Zealand. We've seen it come up, test this DSR zone and the daily 200 EMA line, bounce around a few times. We drop down to the 1-hour chart. If we're looking to short this position, we would want to see a higher high in price with a lower AO. We've got the lower AO, but this price never went above this price. So long-term trade, we wouldn't take it. But based on a short-term trade, we would. So what we want to see is the wave 3 pullback. So it's come down, broke the 1-hour 200 EMA line, pushed back higher. So if I just scroll a little bit back, roughly around there, we want to see it come back to the minimum 38.2 and roughly the 50% mark. What we can see, it's pulled back to the 50% mark. It would have then given us entry when it's broken below this 200 EMA line. You would have put your stops above these highs of about 75 pips, 80 pips. Unfortunately, we've been stopped out if you had taken that position. So the Euro Yen has delivered a target 1, now at break even, and the Euro New Zealand has failed to deliver. Could it continue to go lower? Well, if you look at the 15-minute chart, we still see divergence now with our higher high in price and our lower AO. So it's very likely it could continue lower, but for myself, that this would be the first trade I would have taken. I wouldn't take a second entry. Some people do. The other thing I can see in this pair, if it does continue to go higher, I can see a pattern setting up here. So we take from point 1 to point 2 to point 3. So go from X to A to B, and go from B to C and C to D. So probably think it's going to come up and it's going to retest these areas somewhere around here, and if it does come back to those levels there, you could be looking at another shorting opportunity based on a pattern recognition trade, and that's for the Euro New Zealand. Another one that's confirmed early this morning was the Pound Aussie. You can see it's come down and it's tested this DSR zone quite a few times, and it was in this sideways pattern movement. And it's looked like it may be breaking to the upside. Drop down to the 4-hour chart. We can see it's pushed up, down, and back up again. It's broken the 4-hour 200 EMA line. It's very likely it's going to retest it, where we will look for a buying opportunity to drive it up to this daily DSR zone. What do we want to see on the 1-hour chart? Well, we want to see the large AO. So if we draw in some numbers here, we've probably got the start of wave 1 up to here, then the pullback for wave 2 down to here, then we're currently starting wave 3, push back higher, and we know that's wave 3 because this is the first large AO. But we don't know wave 3 is ended until this comes all the way back below that 0 line. Then we know it's ended. But if we were to assume this was the highest point right at this moment, we will just use our Fibonacci retracement tool from the lows to the highs of wave 3. If it keeps going higher, we just keep dragging this up until it's pulled back to the minimum 38.2 fib, and this AO has come back below the 0 line. We're then going to see this 1-hour 200 EMA line come up and join this. So if we can see it pull down, push back up, and do some type of ABC pattern down to here, and we can see this 200 EMA line coming up and joining up, we'd then want to get into the market. We want to put our stop losses somewhere down to these levels, around 100 to 125 pips. And we can do that because we have our divergence with our lower low in price and our higher AO based on that 4-hour pattern. So because we have the divergence, it's not going to be a quick short-term trade, it's going to be a longer-term trade. So we're going to try to go for more, so therefore we need a larger stop loss. Where do we think it's going to go? Well, we would use our Fibonacci expansion tool this time. We would go from the start of wave 3 to the end of wave 3, and then back down to where wave 4 pulled back. We can then zoom out and we can see that the fib expansion levels, with the most extreme one hitting the DSR zone. Now if this continues to go higher and we can see it come somewhere like that, and then it has its pullback, then obviously it's going to probably hit the 127. But we don't know until this move has finished the wave 3 and then we've pushed up. The main thing is, what can we get? Well, if we're risking 125 pips, we probably can get 250, our 1 for 2, to this first Fibonacci expansion zone. It's always good if you can get your 1 for 2 before this level to take it off the market, or at least be bringing to break even around here, so you're not going to lose any money. And if you want to try to go for 1 for 4, by all means. But once you've hit that 1 to 2 target, you really want to tighten those stop losses up and maybe be looking at a 1 hour chart. And if price crosses back below this 200 EMA line, so when I mean below, you can see it's gone up and it's closed below that line, I'd be using that as a trigger to get out and exit that long position. So you don't want to be trying to go for 1 for 2 and get there and then go for 1 for 4 and then see it'll pull all the way back. So if you can get 1 for 3, that's even good. Another 2 trades that we're setting up is the pound USD and the USD yen. Last week we were talking about them. And what we've seen, it's pushing up and it's almost hitting this daily DSR zone. So for me, it's getting to a point where I may not look at getting a position. On the 1 hour, on the 4 hour chart, we had our lower low in price with our higher AO. So we're definitely looking for a trade opportunity. We'd want to see the large AO with the pullback. But unfortunately for me, it never pulled back its minimum 38.2. So I couldn't take the entry. The risk to reward just wasn't there. If I had taken the entry, it probably would have been somewhere there. And you'd probably be looking at 170 pips, 150 pips, and you may be bringing it to break even soon. But it's just not good enough risk to reward. So what I'm now looking for, because it's done its 5 waves move up in the 1 hour chart, I want to see this entire wave 3 on the 4 hour pull back to 38.2 and touch this 4 hour 200 EMA line. If I can see the AO come back below the line, I will then look for an opportunity because I will have a bit more room to play to this daily DSR zone. So if we said from the lows to the highs and back down to roughly here, the 61.8 matches up with this daily DSR zone. So we're probably going to be looking around maybe 100 pips to get 200 pips. So we can get our 1 for 2 and you wouldn't go for any more. Now, if I can't get my 1 for 2 and my entry, say it confirms here, I'm going to wait for it to confirm an entry and then pull back even lower and then get in. Because if I can't get my minimum 1 for 2, I'm not going to try for it because it's just not worth my risk to reward. USD yen was the other one, and what we can see, it's touched the daily DSR zone. So because it's now come down from this one up here to this one here, as far as I'm concerned, it's moved too far and it's not a valid, no longer a valid trade for me. It was a valid entry with our higher high in price and our lower AO. But on the 1 hour chart, we see it 1, 2, step down for wave 3. It just didn't pull back enough for me. So it's done its 3, back for 4, and then down for 5. And so far as I'm concerned, it's pulled too far. But unlike the pound USD, where it's only pulled back to about these levels, and if it can give me an entry, this one's already hit the target area. So therefore, the trade is now cancelled once it hits the target zone. So thank you for that. That was week 12 of the Forex market review. Look at your trading plan, follow your rules, and if you're like me and the price gets to your target zone before an entry is confirmed, then you just cancel the trade and you look for another buying opportunity. So in this case, the pound Aussie has come up and that's the one I'm now focusing, which will give me the better risk to reward. Could be looking at 1 to 4, but I've also have the pound USD. I've just got to see how close it gets to this daily DSR zone and whether or not I cancel it, because the pound Aussie and the pound USD are directly correlated, both affected by the pound. So if we get any Brexit news over the next week or so, something happening, somebody saying something, then they're both going to win or they're both going to lose. and you want to make sure if your risk to reward can handle